Standing tall over 180 years since erected, we find the Headgate Theatre, Colchester. Originally built as Headgate Congressional Chapel in 1844, the premises was expanded to create a church hall and Sunday school on the side in 1903. It is now a rich hub of the community where you can visit to see a showcase, play or musical, host an event or party, or join in many of its acting, dance or movement classes. There is so much to see and do here, we invited in some members of the Headgate Theatre to tell us about its past, present and future, and how you too can get involved.
A group of local volunteers were interested in finding a home for amateur theatre as early as the mid-80s, and in the late 90s the building which is now the Headgate Theatre was found, and at that time it was a ladies' health spa. Colchester Borough Council agreed to buy the building for us, and with the help of a National Lottery grant and some money from the Harvey Benham Trust and our own fundraising efforts, we were able to convert the Ladies' Health Spa to what is now the Headgate Theatre. And we have been used as a base principally for amateur theatre all through that time, having opened in 2002, and we are just coming to the end of our 25th year. We are just about to embark on a new lease. We do a lot of theatre, and consequently the demands on the building are enormous. So when in 2019 we were given the opportunity to acquire the lease on the building next door, formerly the Warehouse Brasserie, we jumped at that opportunity and we spent about £180,000 converting that from a restaurant and kitchen into rehearsal rooms, meeting rooms, our new foyer with fantastic access facilities, and then most importantly for us thespians, some storage for costumes and props and scenery and this, that and the other, because up until that time we hadn't had any of those facilities. And the introduction of those spaces has meant that we're able to rehearse more shows, etc., because previously the dance studio that we have above the theatre was our only rehearsal venue, and we're not able to use that when we've got a performance in. And when you consider that there are some years when we've had as many as 230 performances during the course of a year, the demand on the space is just colossal. So to get that extra space, it means that we're able to rehearse 5, 6, 7 days a week with the various groups that we've got going on. The organisation has been run principally by volunteers all along and still has a huge volunteer cohort, but we now have 3 part-time staff, a manager, an administrator and a box office assistant, and they work various hours throughout the day and provide the spine of what we do, and the volunteers try to support that. We have, in terms of development, when we first opened there was a huge amount of begging, borrowing and stealing anything that we could lay our hands on in terms of technical equipment, but as time's gone on and we've become more financially secure, we've been able to develop the technical side of things, and so we now have moved into the digital world in terms of lighting, and we're in the process of moving to digital sound as well. So that's a great development for us, really. We have fantastic facilities across the board that are available to the community, and our involvement as part of the hub of the arts scene in Colchester, I think, is something that Headgate ought to be immensely proud of.
Well, the Headgate Theatre is largely run by volunteers. That's the first thing to say. There are 3 members of staff who work part-time, but the vast majority of things that go on in the theatre, everything from putting posters up through to putting shows on, committees, etc., they are volunteers. So the whole operation is overseen by a charitable trust So in a way, the first people to mention, there is a board of trustees who are of course all volunteers from around Colchester, representing the community of Colchester, to make sure that the Headgate Theatre fulfills its missions as to when it was set up, of developing the performing arts in Colchester and providing access to the development of the performing arts for the population of the city and the surrounding area. You have volunteers who do lots of things in the background, sitting on crucial committees about technical equipment, about the building, about marketing and publicity. There's a management committee that meets regularly to deal with the day-to-day running of the theatre. And then, of course, you've got the actual operation of a theatre. So every time we have a show on, for example, then lots of volunteers are involved. Of course, there are people putting the show on, which are often, that's voluntary roles, actors, technicians, stage management. But what I'm really thinking about is the mechanics of putting shows on for the public in a proper theatre. So we have a bar, we have front of house staff, we have to have a front desk manager. A minimum of 5 volunteers is needed to put a show on at Headgate. But if it's a Headgate Theatre Productions show, therefore one being put on by our in-house company, there may be many more people involved. For example, if there are young people in the show, we have a full safeguarding policy, as you might imagine, for a modern voluntary organisation, and therefore we have chaperones. You know, so there are many voluntary roles that you might not think of, but actually need to be done. And so with the volunteer population we have of roughly 110 people at any given time, then organising the volunteers is one of the jobs for the office staff. And we use a piece of software called Rota Central, where all the volunteer tasks are posted on Rota Central, and volunteers click on that and put themselves down for different roles on different days. Our aim with volunteers is for people to get a lot out of it, obviously. That's what we're all about. So I think it's been proven over and over again around the world that taking part in voluntary organisations and voluntary activities is extremely good for people's social well-being, their emotional well-being, and their physical well-being as well. So we're after people being able to fulfil the dreams they have in life, fulfil the desires and the needs that they have in life by coming to be volunteers at Headgate and having lots of social contact. And from a personal point of view, then my own experience has been fantastic. I found my way to the Headgate Theatre almost by mistake. I was helping out on a show that was being produced by a friend of mine and asked me to come to help backstage. And so I came to help backstage, and I thought, well, this theatre's lovely. And luckily I met one of the main coordinators of volunteer activity at the Headgate when we were doing that show. And he said, look, there's loads of opportunities here. We'd love you to get involved. So since then, I've done front of house, I've done the bar, I've been desk manager, I sit on committees, I have been on stage as an actor, and the most fulfilling for me is as theatre director. And so I direct shows. I have directed 3 pantomimes for Headgate. And so I love my voluntary activities with Headgate. Sometimes it will soak up as much time as you throw at it. So.
I've been a part of Headgate Theatre since I was 9 years old, when I first performed in the Headgate Theatre pantomime, which at the time was Peter Pan. It's really lovely, actually, the pantomimes at the Headgate. It's a very intimate space and it's got a lovely feel to it. And yeah, I stayed part of the pantomime across those 9 years. The last 3 years I've been on the other side of the table as part of the directing team. 3 years ago I also started doing Headgate Young Company, which is our in-house company for young people aged 16 to 21 with weekly classes, which it really pushes us all kind of as people, and personally I found as an actor as well, my development came on hugely across those 3 years. And they do 1 production a year for a week, which we audition for. So you get some people from outside the group, the normal group, they come in and audition and are part of it. And often actually they join the group after the show is finished, which is really nice. And it's nice for us as young people to be able to explore these roles that you don't often get an opportunity to. And as part of Headgate Young Company, I also had the opportunity to co-write and co-direct a piece for Colchester Fringe Festival last year. And it was nice to be able to explore a piece as young people from our perspective and kind of share our views and our stories with audiences. And yeah, the Headgate gave us that opportunity, and that was a really cool experience. So we've got a group called Act 5, which is for over 50s, and we have about 35 to 40 people who are regularly doing that group. We've got different practitioners who come in each week, so they explore different styles of acting. They've done radio plays, they've done pantomime. That's a really inclusive group. You've got people who've never done theatre before, people who've done quite a lot of theatre, but it's very inclusive and very welcoming. You've also got Stagecraft, which is run by Richard Bland. It focuses a lot on the actor's toolkit. Again, so for people who are beginners completely and for people to hone their craft as well. You've also got Donovan's Dance Academy, Yoga with Lorraine, which is nice and relaxing. We've got Little Stars, which is weekly classes for under 6s, and Silver Swans, which is a ballet-based exercise group for older people. Again, all levels there as well, which is lovely. And Cats, which is a weekly acting group for children up to 16, and they do a yearly performance at the Headgate as well. So those are the classes that are run there. And you've also got the performances that happen. So you can be a part of Headgate Theatre Productions, which is obviously our in-house group. So they do 7 week-long shows a year. They'll put a cast list out for who they need and then just come along and audition. Platform Musicals also does productions there as well. And Colchester Theatre Group is one that also does productions at the Headgate, and you can audition to be a part of.
When I retired, I was looking for things to do, and I was prepared to do just about anything. I had no involvement in theatre historically, but I did have a health and safety qualification. I think when I went to the induction process, they were very, very interested in that, because working at height and moving around lights and things like that does require safety-conscious environment. So I did get involved with the lighting and technical side rather than the front of house jobs, and I really enjoyed it. I'd had no involvement with theatre before, but I really enjoyed the technical side of it and working with a group of people. The first show I did was Goodnight Mr. Tom, which was a great induction for me, looking at lighting, setting up lighting, and we also have a relatively new digital lighting desk, which was great to learn. And from that, I got more involved with more and more technical things. I think the Headgate is one of those places where if you show enthusiasm and interest, then people will really pick up on it, and it becomes a great learning process. And I think the people that do really well are those that haven't necessarily had roles in theatre before, because the learning process is really, really nice and interesting for people, and it certainly was for me. I got more involved with the sound side, and eventually I picked up the sort of technical development role, which is really interesting for the theatre, because one of the things we're obviously providing technical support for our own productions, but also the theatre's regularly hired out to various other often musical groups and theatrical groups, and we like to offer the really best technical support we possibly can. And at the moment, we have some sort of second-hand gear, but in the next 12 months, we plan to completely update that, go into a full digital sound desk, better projection systems, so we can really offer people who want to rent a theatre space the very best technical support available. And part of that is volunteers coming in and learning these new systems and getting involved with it and enjoying the whole process. So I think from a personal view, it's been a great journey for me, but I think the theatre can also offer that to people who don't necessarily want to appear on stage, but are really interested in learning how to enable a wonderful production with the very best technical support they possibly can. The various volunteers all start at more or less the same level, and there are different pathways. Some people are very interested in the sort of stage management side. Some people are very happy front of house, sort of working with the audience, bar and that sort of thing, and people are very happy to do that. And at the sort of induction stage, we try and identify people who are interested in various elements. It's a matter of finding people who fit in with that group. Working with the show is not just the 3 or 4 days of the show, but maybe 4 or 5 weeks before that, working with the directors and the performers to provide that service. And the people who are working the kit are very keen to train other people, because there's a lot of enjoyment in doing that. And we virtually always have an extra person in the technical area sort of shadowing somebody doing the lighting or shadowing doing the sound. And that's a great experience for both of us. And when the show works well, that's absolutely fantastic.
Our main space obviously is our theatre, our main auditorium, which is very, very lovely. It's a proper little theatre. It's a converted church, raked seating. We can only sit 79 people, but that makes every theatrical show in there very intimate. And so it's a very particular space to do theatre in, both from a practitioner's point of view, but also from an audience point of view. So we have the auditorium, which is available for professional groups, amateur groups, and also for people who want to do things like book launches or product launches or large meetings. It's sometimes used by political groups, for example, when they have a larger meeting than normal. Then we have a dance studio that's large, properly equipped. It has a lovely piano. It's got a full wall of mirrors and a ballet bar all the way along. So a proper dance studio, which can be used for obviously dance rehearsals, but it can also be used for any sort of theatre rehearsal. And once in a while is used as a studio theatre space as well. Then in the downstairs part of the building, we have a rehearsal room, which is not quite as big as a dance studio rehearsal room, but is a very reasonable size, well equipped, lovely sound system. So that again is available for local groups to hire either for theatre rehearsals, or for any other kind of meeting. And we have a meeting room, which is available for any sort of meeting that people want to hire it for. Has a nice large screen TV, which is also on wheels, which can be moved into any of the other spaces I've mentioned. And then upstairs we have our bar and lounge, which again, if there's a production on, of course it's functioning as a theatre bar, and that's an important part of the operation. But it is also available for functions, parties and events. And so we've got all of those different spaces for hire to the public. The future of Headgate. Well, the main thing to say is the future of Headgate is going to try and build on the successful first 25 years, which is just coming up now. And the overall mission of Headgate is developing the performing arts and developing access to the performing arts for the whole of the community of the city of Colchester and the surrounding region. And so that is the mission, and that is the mission that will continue. Then one of the things that's really contributing to that is the excellent news that Colchester City Council have just renewed our lease for another 25 years at a peppercorn rent. So that's excellent. So we know that the next 25 years is a running proposition. Apart from continuing to do the things that we have been doing, providing spaces for local amateur groups, for local professional touring groups, for different kinds of activities of book launches, product launches, clubs, acting classes, etc. We're also looking to move into new areas in the modern world. I think it's important for an organisation like Headgate Theatre to be very aware of the changes that are going on in society in general, and to react to that and try and fulfil our mission in the context of new things that happen. And as any resident of Colchester will know, the city is growing. It's been growing pretty fast, and it's been growing more and more diverse. And so we're particularly interested in trying to make our activities open to all different sections of the society of the city. The diversity and inclusion agenda, I think, is a very important one for the next 25 years, and it's one that the trustees are very keen to develop, and I think we are all on side with that mission. So let's take the in-house production company, for example, Headgate Theatre Productions. The aim is for Headgate Theatre Productions to go on producing multiple shows per year. At the moment, Headgate Theatre Productions produces 7 shows a year. Of course, the range of theatrical productions is huge. Headgate Theatre Productions also pushes the boundaries. Recently, they put on Equus, a much more challenging piece. So anyone who thinks that, oh, amateur dramatics, that's all a bit safe and a bit dull, nothing could be further from the truth. Our other in-house company, the Headgate Young Company, is developing and changing and is just about to relaunch itself. Headgate Theatre are collaborating with Essex Book Festival. There are workshops about eco-podcasting and eco-script writing, for example. The Headgate Young Company's involvement with the climate change project is a very, very interesting example of the way that Headgate is trying to develop into the modern world and along with the movements that are taking place. We have these various projects in mind for the future. We have the 25 years of the lease, but I think that it's important for the organisation, and we all feel that it's important for the organisation to constantly look at the horizon, to see what's going on and to try and react to that and try and make the activities of Headgate Theatre relevant to modern development within the context of our traditional and overall mission, which is the development of performance, the development of performance skills, and particularly the development of young people and the opportunities that they can gain for the fulfilment of their own lives through the medium of taking part in theatrical activities. And we know that we have some success in that area. Some of the young people who've come through the Headgate volunteering operation, and particularly maybe on the acting side, are, as we speak, going on and building successful careers in British theatre. And so that's the kind of success that we want to continue with, not just with actors who tread the boards, but also with people who do things across the whole range of theatrical activities. So we're always open to be contacted. People are very, very welcome to walk in off the street. There's not always someone on the front desk. We'd love to always have someone on the front desk, but it's just not practical. Then there are telephone lines, as you might imagine, but more importantly, they can drop an email to info@headgatetheatre.co.uk. And we are also on a whole range of social media platforms. We have an @Headgate Theatre is always our handle, and we are on X, we are on TikTok, we're on Insta, and we're on Facebook.
Oh, well, probably our most famous visitor is Sir Ian McKellen. Sir Ian's sister, Jean Jones, was one of our original trustees. And so he very kindly took us to his heart right at the outset in 2002. And in the first few years of our existence, he gave us some money to support young people. He's a man who supports community theatre and feels that that's quite important. And so he's been to the Headgate a number of times. 2019, he embarked on a tour of the UK, performing in 80 different venues in his 80th year, and the proceeds from that were all donated to community and local theatre. And so when he knew he was going to be doing that, he came and did 2 performances at the Mercury, because obviously he wasn't going to come and perform at the Headgate to 79 people, but he did 2 performances at the Mercury, and the proceeds from one of those events was in aid of the Headgate, which was unbelievably generous of him. So part of that show, which was, he did a lot of Shakespeare speeches and all sorts of stuff, he had a travel case. And on that travel case, the first night I went to see him perform, he stuck a Mercury Theatre sticker on the travel case. And I thought, the second night, you've got to have a Headgate one of those. And so I got a sticker produced, and sure enough, at the end of the show, he jumped up and he said, we're supporting local theatres, and that's tonight's the Headgate Theatre. Just recently, some friends went to Broadway, and on Broadway, there's a picture in the foyer of Ian McKellen performing in Broadway, and there, right in the middle of the set, is our Headgate Theatre logo. Fantastic.